हेल्थ और टेस्ट की लड़ाई में अब आप रहिए 2 कदम आगे विद फिलिप्स एयर फ्रायर। इसकी ट्विन टर्बो स्टार टेक्नोलॉजी cooks with up to 90% less fat. There's always a way to make life better. Innovation and you. Philips.
Shazia, I'm really hungry now. The chicken biryani, the dum biryani, the Muslim style, which is what we wanted to show World in a Plate live. I hope each one of you all had a great time cooking it and feeding your loved ones. This is what the beauty of World in a Plate is. Professional chefs cooking from their homes. Home chefs cooking from their studios, and that's the saga of World in a Plate, bringing all the beautiful ingredients, the techniques back to your home. And we're really happy that I could have a chat with you, Shazia, and I'm making sure that you'll have to send me my 1 kg of biryani to my home at least on the weekend. So talking about what we've been doing a couple of series during my conversations with you. The first one is about hope, and of course I have a line which I wrote down. I've been looking for lines, I've been looking for quotes, understanding what hope is, and this line is very special, and it throws a lot of light to me. Being able to see the light despite all the darkness. Hope is being able to see the light despite all the darkness. So this World on a Plate is about hope. This is about special things we are doing for you, and this is what we want to bring to you at World on a Plate. And this is what I feel that oh my God, we have.
Good to see you. Namaste for now. Need to keep the physical distance. Lovely. Great surprise.
No, so I wanted to surprise you because firstly I was hungry yesterday.
I hope you enjoyed the masterclass.
I did.
Lovely.
So I was really hungry yesterday. So then I told my team, we're not going to shoot in the studio. We're going to go to maybe someone's special restaurant and surprise them after the masterclass. Then we decided it's you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks. It's good that you made it, because then I would have got surprised if I could have that beautiful taco you made at the masterclass. So what inspired you to make this taco?
Well, this taco is basically immunity boosting, and this is a need of the hour. So I'm using fresh turmeric to make the base, the taco. And of course, it's very different from what we do at the home. I'm sorry, what we do at the restaurant. It's
Correct.
not the same. So at the restaurant, we have a Mexican style, Mara style, wherein at home, I've used different flours to make this very tasty and very easy tacos. So you have
I saw
your,
that.
makai ka atta, there's wheat flour, there's also refined flour, and then fresh turmeric is a trick. So you can use this for so many different preparations, and it's amazing to have the simple ingredients and to create something amazing and tasty at home. So that was the motive, that everybody can make it. It's not difficult to source, and I used jackfruit as we are in South, and
I love the concept of jackfruit, and the full jackfruit idea blew my mind, and that's what World on a Plate is all about. And also giving you challenges to cook in your home, especially chefs like you with all these great equipment you have in a restaurant. Challenging you is what we want to do, because the whole idea is charity, and also telling people that this can be also done.
Sure, see,
And,
during this time, Kiran, actually, you can do so much at home, and we have been learning at home more.
I can see that.
We are now using this time to innovate furthermore.
Lovely. So, just before, I know I'm going out of the conversation we thought we had, but I want to ask you, you're Punjabi.
Yes.
Born
and brought up in Amritsar.
How did you fall in love with the idea of Mexico?
Well, I think it was written. There was no plan to get into Mexican food at all, to be very frank with you. In fact, I was doing more of modern European earlier, and suddenly the idea of Mexican came in 2007-8, and I was doing trials with the producer available at that time in Mumbai, and eventually we decided we will go authentic way. So I worked with a lot of Mexican chefs. When they came to India, they worked with us, and I learned from them. But when they moved back to their locations, there was nobody to handle the brand. So then I decided that I will take this leap further, and I went to Mexico, and with my mentor chef, I learned other tricks of this Mexican cuisine, and from that day onwards, I think it's a win-win situation. So I have a lot of other cuisines which I have dealt with, and the Mexican has become very, very dear to me.
So moving on, firstly, your guacamole is my favorite, and we also had a great event with Colibri last time.
Yes.
And that is interesting. The first person who came to my mind when we were touring Colibri was you guys. She's also going to be on doing a masterclass on Sunday at World on a Plate.
Lovely.
So now, so quickly, amazing to see you, and I'm excited that I'll get to eat the taco today.
Of course, let me check if I have the ingredients for you. I'll make it for you.
Absolutely. So, quickly moving on to what we have next is my dear friend Sandesh Reddy, one of the top pastry chefs across the country, a restaurateur. His cooking, I've gone to his home. He runs many hundreds of restaurants. Super talented chef and an entrepreneur, and absolutely beautiful heart. The best thing I actually experienced with him is having a cup of coffee in his house, and he made me the best black coffee Americano ever. And his innovative cooking style is what we're going to see in the next masterclass. So Sandesh Reddy, I'm not going to say what he's making. You guys can go to the website, download the recipe, and get baking. So this is, day 2 of World on a Plate goes live. Like I said, we're going to go on this activity the whole weekend. We have DIYs, from some of the top restaurants. Make sure that you go ahead and contribute, because the World Hunger Warriors are doing an excellent job, and we are excited to come back and see you tomorrow. And today we had a beautiful day out at Sanchez with Chef Vikas and my whole crew, and I hope you guys have a great Thursday evening. I hope you've made at least 1 or 2 recipes, and see you tomorrow. And I hope I'm not boring you too much, but I'm going to come back with some amazing stories from 2017 that the saga goes on, and you've missed a lot of things which I don't want you to miss. See you tomorrow.
And let me get into that one.
Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen, and I'm going to be doing an effing easy recipe for you to follow along. I think you would have gotten all the ingredients from the WOAP website. So the ingredients are actually fairly simple. I started working on this recipe because during the lockdown I started working on a bunch of recipes that were easy to follow, easy to make with whatever limited ingredients you had in your pantry. This particular recipe was actually something that I came up because of necessity, not because I had the idea to do something really cool. It's just that I ran out of butter one day. The only fat that was at home at that point was olive oil. So I have some really simple chocolate. Just remember that this cake gets better with the quality of the ingredients you use. If you use great quality chocolate, you're going to get a great quality dessert. I'm using some extra virgin olive oil, flour, eggs, sugar. That's it, and maybe a pinch of salt because chocolate and salt goes really well. But other than that, there's really nothing complicated. The skill levels that you need for this are basic to very basic. If you can make an omelette at home, you can make this dessert. It's really literally that simple. So also the whole effing easy series has been about trying to inspire people to get into the kitchen and cook and to deal with stress in some way, shape or form. Because for me, food has been about, de-stressing, decompressing. Even though I do it every day, for me, cooking has been about, expressing myself in whatever simple way I can. And the recipes are actually a reflection of me as a person. At home, I don't like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. As we go along, you'll see that I have a very, very basic kitchen. I don't even have a proper oven. I have a microwave oven that has a convection mode. And if we can make these desserts in this, then the idea is that you can do a lot more interesting things if you have better equipment at home. But I'm hopeful that you will get confidence to start baking and cooking if you could try one or two of these recipes, and then we can go along. I'm going to start off by doing things fairly slowly. This is not normally the pace that I'm used to working, or that it should take this long. If you're comfortable in your kitchen, this should take you half the amount of time that we're doing to film. So if you're following along, feel free to speed up. I think I'll try and explain the next few steps as we go along, so you don't have to wait and do it as slow or as fast as I'm doing it. Find your rhythm, do it at your own pace. It really doesn't matter how long or fast that we're going to do. That it's going to take to make this dessert. So we'll get started. I actually need about 125 grams of chocolate. So I know that these bars are 125 grams each. So I'm going to go with that. And I'm also going to eyeball a lot of the recipes, the ingredients, because while it's great to have a measure, but it's also not such a critical recipe that requires you to use measuring tools, weighing scales, or any of those things. I know people say that baking is more a science rather than cooking is, but if you really understand the dynamics of it, you can wing most of these things. So a couple of things that I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to try and chop up the chocolate into manageable bits. You'll see why I'm going at an angle. So this is literally step one. It's really not that complicated. So I'm using 70% dark chocolate. You can use 54, 50. You want to use really good quality milk chocolate, that's fine too. It really doesn't matter what kind of chocolate you use. But obviously dark chocolate and olive oil go really well together, so that's the reason why I've chosen to use a 70% chocolate. My chocolate of choice is obviously something that would be great for eating, but you can always use basic chocolate. This is all I had in my pantry, so that's what I'm using. But you'll know that it doesn't matter. Even if the most basic chocolate, even if you had like a Bonville dark, you can still use it and it just gives you great results every single time. But obviously better the quality of chocolate, better the result. I'm going to put some water to boil so that I can melt the chocolate slowly. So I'm going to do a hack. So I've got my pan that's heating without anything in it. And I'm also going to heat some water in my kettle. So by the time the pan picks up some heat, we already have boiling hot water, so it'll speed up the process. We don't have to wait around for too long to get this going. So, for me, molten chocolate cakes have always been one of these desserts that I've grown up eating. I've seen it in fancy restaurants, you see it in a Domino's pizza. There is a sense of nostalgia for me that revolves around watching this molten chocolate flow through a cake. The version I'm doing today, you can demold it if you just dust the ramekin. But here I'm just going to bake it and eat it in the same container, so you don't have to be too worried about dusting it and prepping the ramekin ahead. I'm using a small ramekin, so I'll get about 6 of these, maybe more. It's great for eating by itself without having to cook it. But this is the size of the ramekin that I'm using. So you normally are going to fill it about yay much, and you want a little bit of room for it to rise. It is going to rise. You may see it rise above the container, it doesn't really matter. It spills off, it really doesn't really matter in terms of what we're trying to do. So you want to fill the pan halfway through. You don't need it to go all the way to the top. Just remember that you want the water to be warm. You don't need it to be, you don't want it to come to a rolling boil of any sort. So I'm going to set one of these glass bowls on top. I'll put the chocolate in. And at this stage, we want to get about 120 mils of olive oil. I know this is approximately 75 mil, so I'm going to use that as a measure. If you feel that the mix is getting too oily at this stage, you always have some extra chocolate which you can add in. If you think that it's not glossy enough, you can add more oil. You can eyeball it, you can measure it. I've given you the measurements anyways in the recipe, so if you want to be very accurate, you can go ahead and measure it. I have a weighing scale, but this recipe is too simple for me to pull something out of the kitchen and then another thing to clean later on. So I'm just going to stick to the absolute basics. So I'm going to give this a stir and well, people ask me usually when it comes to melting chocolate if this is the best way of doing it. In all honesty, you can do it in a microwave, but just make sure that you do them in like 1 minute intervals. Don't let it sit there. Take it out every minute or so, or even 30 seconds. If you're cutting it really small, 30 seconds is better. I can hear my water starting to boil, so I'm going to turn this down as much as I can, because you don't want like boiling hot water on it. All you want is the steam to coat the base of the bowl. As you can see, that's all I want. And that's enough heat to melt this gently so that we get a nice homogeneous mixture. So yeah, as I was saying, if you're going to use a microwave, you're going to cut them into like really small bits. 30-second bursts are probably the best way to deal with it. Take it out, quick stir, pop it back in the microwave and let it go. So, well, another question with regards to this recipe is, can you substitute olive oil for butter? You can. You can even substitute for ghee. You can substitute this with, vegetable oil if you don't have olive oil. Just a nice neutral fat. If you don't like the flavor of olive oil, that's fine. You can even use coconut fat, coconut oil, whatever else you want. So this is literally a template for you to play around with. Can you add other things? Can you add different kinds of chocolate? Sure. If you want to make this with white chocolate, it works out fine too. But then if you're making it with white chocolate, then I would strongly recommend you use butter or some other form of dairy fat rather than oil. So it's good to pull off when put it off the stove when there is still a little bit of lumps that are still visible. There's still enough heat in the bowl to continue to cook it. I'm going to do two things. One is I'm going to quickly take it off and give it a quick stir. And I've turned off the heat, but there's still enough heat in the pan to keep the water still warm and to make sure that the chocolate stays nice and molten. As you can tell, sort of hardly any lumps left. Bring it back onto the heat, leave it there, we'll deal with that later. In the meantime, landlines these days that go off, at least expect them to. I'm going to separate a few eggs. I'm going to reserve one yolk. If you don't like the taste of yolk, use it anyways, you won't taste it, but that additional amount of richness in the final mixture is so worth it. I'm using these very small eggs. So if you have large eggs, then 2 are good. Use 1 yolk and 2 whites. I'm using 3 whites and 1 yolk, regardless. So to my cat later, so I'm going to save those 2 yolks. Ooh, we have one that's cracked sideways. Let's try this one. The thing that say about washing your hands if you touch eggs and poultry. I think it's more relevant now, considering that of all the things that you could fall sick is with falling sick or when you're making dessert. So all you need is one yolk. To this, bring back this perfectly smooth chocolate mix. If I add it in right now, it's going to curdle. So it's going to cook the eggs. So I'm going to let this cool down a bit. In the meantime, one of your standard spoons. We're going to add about 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and about half a teaspoon of salt. Give this a quick stir, just so that it starts combining. You want to form rough clumps. You don't have to already overwork it. So you want to get it to the slight crumbly texture. The reason is you want the sugar not to completely dissolve. You want that sugar to exist at some granular level because that's going to melt at a slightly different temperature than the eggs. So go ahead. Stage, you want to go ahead and mix it. Remember, this is the chocolate still very wet, so the batter might seem like it's really runny. And also because it's olive oil and it's not butter, so it's not going to really seem like a very like firmish batter. But for whatever reason, if you feel you're a little uncomfortable with the texture, you can add a little more flour in it and it will be totally fine. So there's the other conversation about why I didn't add my dry ingredients to the wet ingredients and start mixing them. I want these clumps. This recipe really doesn't have any other texture. So these are going to cook, some of them are going to cook into slight crystalline globules of fat, flour and sugar. So it'll feel like a crumbly, cookie-like texture almost in the edges. And the center is going to be like chocolate cookie dough. That's not something that you really complain about. But that's what I'm going for. As you can tell, as I'm working it in, it's going to start thickening up a bit. So this is a good consistency to leave it. And then let that sit for a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to try and rinse off my bowl. you want to try and make sure water is really not the enemy when you're whipping egg whites, but I'm guessing bits of chocolate definitely will make it unstable. So you want to try and make sure that it's cleanish. Pop the egg whites in. If you have multiple whisks, multiple bowls at home, use them. But I prefer just keeping clean up to a minimum. So again, there are lots of techniques to whipping. I prefer the side to side because it gives you go a long way without. You just go on whipping without your arm getting tired of it. When it starts to get foamy, this is a good time to add a little bit of salt. Helps if you have some tartaric acid. That will really help with the whipping. So when do you stop? So is this a good time to go to soft bakes? In most cases I would say yes, but since we're trying to get a nice molten consistency, you just want to get that nice and foamy. Maybe when you get to the ribbon stage, that's good enough. You want them to stay nice and moist. About the stage that you want it at. Perfect. So you just wanted to hold, if you were to just draw a line with the peak, it should hold for a few seconds before it disappears. So that's about right. Now difficult job of combining it all. That's it. Put it all together. It's really not that complicated. And fold it through. Starts off feeling like it's very runny, and as you start combining it, you'll notice that it starts to form a pattern of sauce. As you can tell, it's definitely gotten thicker. You still see those bits of nuggets everywhere on the spatula. That's desired. So in most cake batters, they make you mix it till it's absolutely smooth, fine, no crumbs. So we're turning that on its head. And that's it. We'll clean this up and we'll start filling maybe 4 or 5 pumpkins. There's no greasing, there's none of that. Save that in case we need one later. All we're going to do is to start filling up our ramekins. It's more like 4.5, but we're going to bake all of it anyways. So one thing that you definitely do want to do is to make sure that you clean up all the edges as best as you can. Good trick. Use a little bit of baking soda in it, but even otherwise just water. Just do it quick. Just squeeze it through. Use one finger to wipe and the other one to dry it off. Use a paper towel. If you're making things at home, they don't have to be that pretty. For yourself and your family, I'm sure they'll understand. The edge is a little off. It's fine. So the reason why we're wiping it down is not so that it looks pretty, it's just that those are going to start caramelizing and burning at different temperatures, and that's not necessarily pleasant. Sometimes as it rises, it may actually cause the whole thing to collapse. So that's what we're trying to avoid. There you go. That's it. So now we're going to pop these in the freezer. only for as long as it's going to take for us to preheat our oven. So we're going to preheat this at 180. So what if you make too much? Well, hopefully it won't be too much. But if it is, all you need to do is to leave them in the refrigerator for up to a couple of days. So if you're entertaining guests, you can pop them in the fridge, pull it out just before you need to. Just don't even bother waiting to let it come to room temperature. It's going to go from the fridge or the freezer straight into the oven. Which is why it's very important that you use heat-proof dishes. Otherwise, if it's just regular glass, it's going to shatter when it goes from cold to hot that quickly. The other thing to be mindful of is if you want to save this for much later, you can make a large batch, put them in ramekins, put them in maybe put cling film around it, and you can freeze these for up to a month, and then again go straight from the freezer to the oven. But you will have to probably change the amount of time you take to bake it. We're going to try and bake these for 6 minutes, maybe 7, and see how those go. Wider the container, longer might take. Taller is also another thing that might take a little longer. So try and find the balance. Again, each oven is different. What I say 6 minutes at 180 degree in my oven is not necessarily 6 minutes at 180 in your oven. So that's something that you want to definitely be mindful of. So experiment. That's why you have a few extra. There's no such thing as a bad molten chocolate cake, only as long as it's overcooked, then it becomes a muffin. So they're still edible. The other thing is you will notice that the recipe that I've used is fairly saline. It's very salty in that sense. So if you want to cut back, that's fine too. So try it as is, because again, I don't know what chocolate you're using. So if you think it works at the proportions given, it's great. If you want to change it up, switch it up, cut it down. But make sure there's at least a little bit of salt in there. It helps with the eggs. It makes sure that you get a nice foamy, creamy texture. The other thing that the salt also does is it amps up the flavor of the dark chocolate. The 70% isn't too sweet. So if you like the salinity but you want more sugar, add more sugar. It's fine. If you don't like the crumbly texture that you're getting with this, then just sift all the dry ingredients together, put the egg yolk into the chocolate, sift all the dry ingredients in, fold it through, add the egg whites and fold it through, and you'll get a really smooth batter. So this is literally a template for the way I'd like to do things, but it's not necessarily the only way to do things. So feel free to use whatever way you like. The results are pretty similar, but it's just that you're not going to get that textural difference which we're trying to get with this recipe. Also, another thing to note is if you're using butter, for example, just make sure that the butter is unsalted. You don't want to use salted butter because you're anyways going to add salt into the mix later. But what that doesn't help you understand is the amount of salt that's in the butter. So you're never really going to get the exact amount of salt control in your dish. So that's why you always use unsalted butter and then add salt as you go along. So it looks like the oven's preheated. I'm just going to bake 2. I'm going to save some for post dinner. So you can chill these longer and use them when the batter is colder. You get a much more cakier edge and a much more molten, slightly gooier center. But we have enough, so we can try them with different options. I'm going to bake these for 6 minutes and see what happens. They're ready to go. Just want to make sure that it forms a little crust on top. So you know that they're ready when you can see the edges are cooked, and this is the granular texture I was talking about that we're going for. You want it to be just a bit wobbly. You can cook this further if you want, but it's the texture I'm going for. There you go. This is light as pudding. And you have a beautiful creamy center. I'm going to pop one back in the oven just to show you what it's like when we cook it further. I'm going to take it up by maybe a few more minutes. So just remember that this is a microwave that has a convection oven function in it. It's not being microwaved for so many minutes. If you decide to microwave it, what you're going to get is a really cooked center that's probably going to completely explode it's going to start bubbling up. It's going to crack. It's not pleasant. If you want to do the same thing in the microwave, you might need to maybe put it in for a minute or minute and a half, not more than that. So you can tell that it's already beginning to that's the effect of putting it in the microwave as opposed to an oven. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is what you shouldn't be doing as opposed to what you should be doing. You can tell that it's become extremely spongy. You see the holes that are there. This is the problem with using an oven that's both convection and microwave. You see that? It's not that it's not going to be bad, but that's as long as you want to push it forward in the microwave. And these are the crumbs that I was talking about that we're going for intentionally. So these taste like bits of cookie nibs in the cake. So there you have it. What you shouldn't be doing and what you should be doing.
एक कदम आगे फिर दो कदम पीछे।
हेल्थ और टेस्ट की लड़ाई में अब आप रहिए 2 कदम आगे विद फिलिप्स एयर फ्रायर। इसकी ट्विन टर्बो स्टार टेक्नोलॉजी cooks with up to 90% less fat. There's always a way to make life better. Innovation and you. Philips.